Shaking my head. The mayor of New Orleans, she's a sister, must love that Jack Harlow song First Class, as she insists taxpayers must pay $30,000 for first class flights for her safety and says taxpayers must cough it up and she ain't reimbursing them at all. Oh my goodness. Why? Gentlemen, you won't believe this tale from the entitlement of modern women, just when you thought you heard everything from them. Now the mayor of New Orleans, who is a sister by the way, says she must fly first class domestically and internationally at the expense of taxpayers because flying economy is unsafe for black women. Yes, you heard that right, brothers. Those words actually came out of her doggone mouth, according to several major news reports, links below. Last week, we heard from sisters who took an L last week, who were insulted that a white man went on 50 dates in 50 states with 50 white women. Why? Black women took a big L last week for that. And now, here we are again, they're about to take another one. Now, just to be fair, that's not to say that all black women agree with this nonsense, of course. But more should speak up and condemn this to protect their image and stop this insanity. So to all my sisters out there, we know many of y'all blindly despise men. Not all, but a lot of y'all just hate us for whatever reason. But please stop coming up with new creative ways to take L's. Yes, you're not the only ones, as we saw from my video on that woman in Las Vegas who insisted she was too pretty to be arrested. But this L right here with New Orleans is just absolutely ridiculous. So let's get right to the story, then I'll come back with my analysis. And gentlemen, don't laugh too loud, guys. All right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep this new channel growing. Okay, let's play that doggone clip.
Was my favorite story yesterday. This hands down my favorite story of the day. Listen to this. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell defending her preference for first-class foreign flights, claiming it's for safety purposes, all while it's costing the taxpayers $30,000. Here's her quote. "My travel accommodations are a matter of safety, not of luxury. As all women know, our health and safety are often disregarded and we are left to navigate alone. Anyone who wants to question how I protect myself just doesn't understand the world black women walk in. Anyone who wants to question how I protect myself just doesn't understand the world black women walk in."
So let's get this straight. She actually believes flying economy is quote unquote unsafe for black women, while justifying her $30,000 spend on these first-class seats. And on top of that, she refuses to reimburse the financially strapped citizens of New Orleans. Why, people, why? This is feminist entitlement run amok. It is so far out of control that surely even the average modern woman has to sit back and say, dang, did we fight all these decades for this level of entitlement and decadence at the expense of society? So let's further recap her arrogance, which is not isolated to just her, but is widespread among modern womanists in the West. Quote, "The Democratic mayor of New Orleans, LaToya Cantrell, has insisted that spending tens of thousands of dollars on first-class plane seats was necessary, suggesting that flying economy would be unsafe for a black woman," unquote. Never mind that every doggone airport has a TSA screening system, cops everywhere, and the vast majority of travelers are law-abiding citizens. She specifically highlighted black women over other women. So I guess a white woman is more safe in economy than a black woman? Madam Mayor, where are the stats to back up that egregious statement? Oh, that's right. It's based on your truth, my truth, your emotional intelligence that cannot be questioned or scrutinized at all, especially by men, I guess. Oh boy.
We're talking the difference between First Class and Coach. Laura Rodrigue, a New Orleans attorney and founder of the Mama Bear Group, joins me now. Laura, should the FAA be doing more about the supposedly unsafe conditions in Coach plaguing all women, but specifically women of color?
Well, you know, we certainly know that that curtain that separates the First Class from Coach seems to be providing, you know, $30,000 worth of protection at the cost of the taxpayers in New Orleans. You know, this is just another example of how ridiculous this mayor has gotten in the city of New Orleans. And when you compare the fact that $30,000 is just the difference in cost from a Coach seat versus a First Class, and the starting salary of our New Orleans Police Department is $40,000. So you have to take that into consideration when we are the murder capital of the country right now, with one of the lowest police department employment rate. We just cannot keep police officers, and it's no wonder that, you know, the city has become the laughing stock of the country.
Such a critical point there on the difference in money. Mayor Cantrell's first-class flights this year have cost between $2,300 and $17,000, both to national and international destinations. I mean, look at that on your screen. She could have done this for much cheaper, but didn't. What do you make of her lack of shame on this when her residents are literally struggling to buy food and gas?
Well, the lack of shame, unfortunately, we've sort of become accustomed to here. There is a complete disregard for the intelligence level of the citizens of Orleans Parish to think that any of us believe this. You know, women in New Orleans are most afraid to stop at a red light right now. You know, you're going to get carjacked. There's a greater chance of getting carjacked in New Orleans at this point than not getting carjacked. So the fact that she thinks any of us here in New Orleans believe that her safety in the area of Coach versus, you know, a few feet back in the First Class, or excuse me, a few feet forward in First Class would make the difference of $30,000 is simply ridiculous, especially when you consider the fact that her security team were sitting in Coach at the time she was sitting in First Class. So it just is so ridiculous at this point to think that anybody would believe that this was the truth. It's simply just her living off of the dime of the citizens of Orleans Parish, and now boldly stating, I refuse to repay it. And there are several issues here that she could face down the line. There is a policy in place requiring her to repay that. There's also the fact that it could be criminal in nature. I mean, it is technically a theft, the taking of something of value with the intent to permanently deprive it. It reaches a malfeasance in office. So there are several things here that certainly could come into play in the future.
Finally, quote, Cantrell, the mayor of New Orleans, Cantrell is refusing to refund the $30,000 of taxpayers' money she spent on the luxury seats to France and Switzerland, unquote. What are you doing in Switzerland anyway? Anyway, the absolute bold gall of her to refuse to reimburse taxpayers. It's mind-boggling. Who wants to wage a friendly bet on what L these kinds of women will take next week? It's like a new L every week. In the words of the great late Kevin Samuels, you can't make this shit up. And by the way, there's a recall campaign against her by other Democratic women, by the way. So even, you know, feminist women are getting tired of her crazy nonsense.
You are helping lead the recall effort of the mayor, a recall effort, mind you, that is being led as well by two Democrats, started by two Democrats. That speaks volumes. Laura Rodrigue, thanks for joining us this morning. The story seems funny, but it is all too sad for the fine folks there in the beautiful city of New Orleans. Thank you.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep this new channel growing. Until modern women like this mayor of New Orleans stop making up nonsense to justify their extreme entitlement behavior, the apocalypse of good men will continue. Welcome to the Brother Apocalypse.